Hello YouTube, this is Dr. Shekib, and today I'm going to talk about Piers, Morgan and Andrew Tate. I'm not a politician, so I will only talk about the skills or the manipulation tactics that a journalist can use. I have to say that I never watched this video before, and I would like to watch and then share my thoughts about this video. So let's go.
To the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. What is your view of this war?
First of all, this is a good tactic in media to manipulate people. First thing they do, they ask questions that show one side upper and the other side lower. And as you see, Piers Morgan do the same tactics here. He asked Andrew Tate that what's your view about Israel and Hamas war? He don't mention Palestine. And if you watch Fox News, if you watch NBC, if you watch CNN, they always say the same thing. There is no Palestinian and there is no land called Palestine. So whenever you talk and whenever you see these interviews, you will always listen from Hamas. Everybody say Hamas, 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 Hamas. But nobody talks about Palestine. Nobody talks about people of Palestine. And what happened when you watch over and over and over, you will understand that there is a war between Israel and Hamas. Now, who is Hamas? A terrorist group. Who is Israel? A country. So you will say, okay, this is a war between a terrorist group and a country. But you will forget about people of Palestine. You will forget about land of Palestine. So this is a technical questions that eliminate a country and give you an image of terrorism or a group to represent the country.
I think when you call it a war, you're doing a disservice to the people who are having their limbs blown off by some of the most advanced technical weaponry on the planet. It is a genocide and it is disgusting. And it doesn't matter which side of the political spectrum you fall on. When you observe a genocide in front of your very eyes, you should be disgusted.
Which side is waging genocide?
The Israelis are genociding the Palestinians, and you know it as well as everybody else does. I don't know that. Well, then it seems like your bosses are not allowing you to know it.
What do you think of what Hamas did on October the 7th?
Why are you starting the story in the middle, Piers?
I just asked you about the wider war. I'm now asking you specifically about Hamas.
I cannot professionally answer that question without talking about the context that led up to October 7th.
Well, when I watch Piers Morgan, I'm a fan. He always asks people that what Hamas did on October, was it good or bad? But that's not the ethics of journalism. If you want to know something, you should ask it in a different way. If he say, I don't condemn that, then you will tell him, okay, you don't condemn a terrorist act. But if he say, I condemn that, then you will say, okay, then whatever Israel is doing is fine. But that's not the case. If you are a journalist, you should be a person who ask questions that follow truth. So I think the better way to ask a question should be like, why October the 7th happened? I believe that what happened on October the 7th was the most horrific thing. I don't support that. But as a journalist, if I'm going to understand, I will ask why this happened. And I will also ask that where was Israel? Where was Mossad? And I will ask many following questions. And I will also say that how it is possible that a group of terrorists attack Israel and Israel is not aware of that. So, but if you are saying that, is it good or bad? It's like you almost play a movie from a half and then you are judging that movie based on that half. And that's not fundamentals of journalism.
Nothing, to my mind, justifies what happened on October the 7th.
Nothing justifies what happened before October the 7th, Piers. This is the exact point. So you're talking
yeah, he's right.
I don't know what answer you expect from me, because let's forget the fact that I'm a Muslim. You're talking to a man who is fighting oppression to the best of his ability.
I would like to mention another point. If you're a religious person, you're better than an evil worshipper. So I stand with any person who believes on God, no matter he's Jew, no matter he's Muslim, no matter he's Christian. For me, every religion is respected, and I believe in humanity as a Afghan Muslim, and I believe this fight is not about Jews and Muslims. I don't believe that Hamas represents Islam, and I don't believe that Israeli government represents Jews. They don't. And I don't even believe that Israeli government represent their own people, because I know there are lots of Jews that love Muslims and they live together. So I will mention one thing. Please don't give a name to this war of Jew and Muslims, because it's not. You will find Jews that are standing with Palestinian, and you will find Palestinian or Muslim that are standing with Jews that were victim of October the 7th tragedy.
Because he believes that the people in charge of the world are enslaving us all, to the point where I detriment my own life. I end up in a jail cell because I'm speaking against oppression. Then you're asking me what I would do if my family was blown to pieces?
You're not in a jail. Hang on.
You're asking me what I would do if another government came along and blew my family to pieces?
You weren't put in a jail cell because of any oppression.
Absolutely I was.
No, you weren't.
Of course I was.
You were put in jail cell because you've been accused of serious sexual crimes.
I would not have been accused if I was not monumentally successful in speaking the truth.
Let me ask you again. It's a simple question. Some people can answer it straight away, including pro-Palestinians people I've had on my program. Many are very quick to say absolutely. Do you believe Hamas are a terror organization?
And that's a very interesting question, but I think you're peddling asininities.
Well, just answer the question.
Could somebody do me a favor? Google asininities and find out if it's a word.
I know what it means.
If it's not, make sure it's added to Webster on Top G's orders.
Okay. Just, are they a terror group?
You're peddling asininities because I'll tell you why, Piers. Let me answer the question.
No, I'm not.
Of course you are.
It's a simple question.
That's like me asking...
I'll tell you why I asked. Because the UK, where you were born, prescribes Hamas as a terror organization.
They also prescribe me as dangerous to children in school.
Yeah, he's right.
Let me explain something to you.
I mean, he's right.
If I would sit here and say, is stealing wrong? And you'd say yes, and I go, but what if the person stealing is trying to feed their family, and if they don't, their family are going to die?
That's a good point. That's a good point. He's absolutely right.
Reduce it down to one sentence, which is failure.
You're trying to equate stealing with a mob of terrorists breaking over a border, going to peaceful...
Is that what Israel did?
Wait a minute.
A mob of terrorists breaking over a border and killing people. Is that what Israel did?
Going through a...
Paris is doing one thing. When you talk, he interrupts you a lot. In every 5 seconds, he will interrupt you again and again and again. But if he is talking and you interrupt him, man, he will tell you, just wait a minute. He will point at you just to make you discomfortable, and he will say, let me finish, while he don't let you finish. And I think I saw one of his interview with Hijab. In first interview, Paris did his technique, and in second interview, Hijab had a great comeback. He did what Paris do to other people. So I'm saying, as a journalist, if you're asking somebody, you should let him finish his point. Doesn't matter you like that point or not. Right now, what Paris wants is that Andrew should accept that Hamas is a terrorist organization. That's fine. If you think they are a terrorist organization, it's fine. You can be agree to disagree. But you are not supposed to push pressure on a party to say what you want him to say. I mean, if this is the skills of journalism, if you are saying that Hamas is a terrorist group and you're asking a person that are they a terrorist group, let them finish. So as a journalist, you have to listen. You're not going to say, it's a simple question, just tell me yes or no. And this is a trap. Most of people that going to Paris Morgan and in his interview, and he asked the same repeated question. And you know what are they doing? They think that if we say yes, this will be terrible. No, dude. Say yes, Hamas is a terrorist group. I accept that. So what? And actually a person did this. Bassem did this on his interview, and Paris was shocked. It is his trap to ask you, and if you say that no, I don't accept them as a terrorist, and then he will attack you again and again. So this is better to accept what is he saying, and then make your point, like Bassem did. And I have a video I will have my viewpoint on him. But right now, what Andrew says, that fine, if you think they are terrorists, like Hamas is terrorists, it's fine. But let me tell you what happened before December the 7th. But Piers will not let him to talk about past. He's just picking one side, and he's telling you, okay, is this good or bad? Not talking about past, not talking about future, not talking about reasons. Just tell me, is it good or bad? For example, you are going to a judge, and a judge tells you why you killed a person, and you're saying it was self-defense. And judge is not listening to you. He don't want that proof. All he wants to know is that are you a murderer? So if you are a self-defender, then you are not a terrorist at all. For example, a terrorist is attacking me and I am trying to defend myself, and I killed the terrorist, and now Piers is coming and telling me, you killed a guy. Was it good or bad? Killing people is good or bad? Then I have to say killing people is bad. But there is a reason that I killed the terrorist. So killing terrorists is, I think, not bad. It is a heroic action. But if you only tell me that, no, he was a human and you killed him, tell me, is it good or bad? So this is a meaningless question. We can call this a question of manipulation.
Order on October the 7th.
Oh, October the 7th.
Massacring young people at a festival, massacring families in their homes in a kibbutz, setting fire to them, cutting their heads off, killing babies.
Oh, killing 40 babies, that was true.
Well, fine.
Were the babies vaccinated?
That's funny.
I'm not being flippant. The point I am
I
making...
don't find that funny.
No, but the point I am making is that the media lies.
That's funny, actually.
I can ask you about different things at the same time, right?
Sure.
So I'm asking you, first of all, specifically, what is your reaction to what happened on October the 7th?
Sure, I'll answer the question professionally. I do not condone the loss of human life on either side. I think anybody doing anything which directly damages civilians is disgusting and abhorrent. However, I would be an amateur if I could not sit and pretend I do not understand the motivations behind either side. This is not even me taking a side. I understand why Israel is doing what it's doing. I understand why Palestine is doing what it's doing. However, I still call the Israeli actions absolutely abhorrent and genocidal.
Okay, we're going to come to Israel's actions.
I believe that if you are going to ask somebody that what happened in Israel is bad, you should also tell them that I agree that what is going on in Palestine is bad. What is going on in Gaza is bad. So as a journalist, you should not judge. But if you are judging one side and you're saying that tell me Hamas are terrorist group, then you should also ask the person to tell me about Israelis. Are they good or bad?
But in terms of what Hamas did on October the 7th...
Hamas. Most of the time, I don't know why, when you see in TVs, they're talking and talking about Hamas.
You're the person who would have called Nelson Mandela a terrorist while he was still in jail, and one person's a terrorist and another person's freedom fighter. For me to answer the question, yes, you would have.
Trust me, whenever he say I didn't tell that, he for sure did. And I think this will kind of damage a person. It will kind of damage his trust. So I find Piers Morgan a very professional journalist when he talk with people that defend Israel, but I find him unprofessional who interrupt people every 5 seconds when it comes to Palestine. And I'm not a politician. I say I don't support killing of humans, whether it's in Israel, whether it's in Palestine. I say that I respect every religion, doesn't matter Islam, Jew, Christianity. I believe in humanity. But when you're talking about an issue that causes killing people, you have to be professional. You have to be a person that promote peace, not hate. And every person that's talking with Piers Morgan, he's asking the question that is not peaceful. I find this question tricky, and I find this question manipulated. That's my, I think I do.
Professional, Piers. For me to sit on the outside in Romania with no personal involvement in Israel-Palestine, it's easy for me to say, yes, it was an act of terror. However, if I was in Gaza, if I was in an open-air prison, if my family had been annihilated by bombs from the sky, if everybody I knew had suffered the loss of a loved one, if I had no chance of any kind of freedom or democracy or standard of life, would I believe it was an act of terror, or would I believe it's an resistance?
That's a good question. That's a good question, actually.
So what do you think?
I think I understand what happens when you take people and put them in such an inhumane condition. For anybody to sit and say that you're going to take people and put them in absolutely inhumane conditions and give them no standard of life, and they're not allowed to ever fight back, or they're
But I can agree with you.
Anyone who does that is an amateur.
I can agree with you.
Whenever Piers say that I can agree with you, it means that he wants your time. It doesn't mean that he really agree with you. There is two things. If Piers Morgan interview me, when he say I'm agreeing with you, I won't stop. I will complete my point, because he's not agreeing with me. He just wants his time. He wants to talk and make me quiet. And when he told me that, I understand that, or I'm with you, or yes, we can agree on that. These are only the tricks that he wants your time. He wants to talk.
That the plight of the Palestinians for many decades has been absolutely shameful.
So what did we think was going to happen, Piers?
No, nothing justifies what happened on October the 7th.
So what are they supposed to do?
Nothing.
So what are they supposed to do?
That was an act of medieval barbaric terrorism. Nothing justifies it.
Did they suffer
and your
acts
attempt
Let me ask Piers Morgan, as a journalist, when you decide that that's completely a terrorist attack, then why are you asking? You should not decide something. You're a person, as a journalist, to understand. Your job is to ask questions that promote peace and give you details. You're not a person to be interviewed. You're not a guest. You're a journalist. And a journalist cannot say that this thing is good and this thing is bad. You're not a judge. You're just a dumb journalist. Let people talk their view. You can ask that, was it a terrorist attack or not? But you cannot say, hey, it was a terrorist attack. And okay, fine, if you think it was a terrorist attack, then why you're asking other people's view? You almost got the answer. You almost believe that it is a terrorist attack. Then why you are interviewing them? I mean, if Piers tell me that I think what happened in December 27, it is a terrorist attack, then I will say why you are asking me that was it or not. Because as a journalist, you should keep your feeling private. You should not say in your own show that I think it is a terrorist attack, because you're not going to say it. As Andrew mentioned, that he called Nelson Mandela a terrorist, and when he's released, he said he's a hero. So as a journalist, you don't decide. You just talk about the facts. That you can say, like, Andrew believed that it's not a terrorist attack, and Shapiro believed that it's a terrorist attack. And I let this I let this both to decide what's truth. But you cannot say I believe, because you're not the person to judge. You're a journalist.
Your attempt to try and equivocate.
Did they suffer acts of medieval barbaric terrorism before that date? Yes. And it's unfortunately an eye for an eye in this world.
Tell me,
I'm not condoning. I'm being a professional and answering to you why it happened.
Give me one example of where Israel, without any provocation,
that's actually funny. This guy don't know the story.
1,500 innocent people cutting their heads off, taping and boasting about what they'd done back to their families in Israel, kidnapping Holocaust survivors, bringing them, they wouldn't have, of course, done that in their case, kidnapping old grandmothers and bringing them back to Israel, kidnapping babies, kidnapping children. When has Israel actually gone in and done something of the scale of October the 7th?
There's literally...
let me tell you something. Why Israel should do so? They have planes, they have tanks, they have bombs. I mean, that's so funny and that's so unprofessional. If a person told me that you had a knife and you attacked a person by a knife and you killed him, that's bad. I accept that. Now, he never attacked you by knife and he never killed your brother by knife. And I'm telling you, dude, he don't need to attack me by knife because he has gun. He don't need to attack me by knife because he has rockets. You cannot say that when exactly same crime happened so that we should judge both. That's so unprofessional, dude. I mean, all they have, Palestinian has rockets, for example. Hamas, the terrorist group, has rockets. And they are killing innocent Israelis by rockets. Now, Israeli kills innocent Palestinian by airstrike. And a rocket with an airstrike. If you compare this both, the airstrike is more danger. Now, if you say that, forget about airstrike of Israel, just give me an example that Israel attacked Palestinian back by rocket. That's funny. That's a ridiculous question. Because Israeli don't need to attack Palestinian by rockets. Because they had better way to do so.
Endless examples of that.
Give me one.
In 2014, they were bombing civilians.
Give me,
no, no. You know what, Piers? Let me tell you something.
I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about what they were categorizing.
Yeah, he's not talking about bombing.
And there's an arguable point.
He won't talk about bombing. He's talking about the same thing that Hamas did.
What Hamas perpetrated on October the 7th, there is no instance of Israel doing that to the people of Gaza.
Then fine. You almost decide you're telling the truth to your audience. Why are you asking other people about what you almost judge? I mean, as a journalist, my job is to understand what's going on. And once I understand what's going on, I won't make any further debates on that. I will tell to my audience that, hey, look, this is the truth. And I believe that this is the truth. I won't decide to debate on this issue again. So once you're saying that what happened was a terrorist attack and nothing happened in history with Palestinians before like this, then you almost decide you're a judge, you're not a journalist, then why you're trying to interview people? I don't know.
And you have to accept that. If you don't accept that, you're either deluded or you're deliberately not wanting.
And one other trick that Pires has, if you won't accept what he's saying, he will mention words like you're deluded, you have delusion, you are not living in a real world. And now this trick is so shameful because most of the people that are crazy are telling to people that you are crazy. Most of the people that are liars are telling people that you are liars. And once they are saying that you're delusion, now you will feel uncomfortable and you will become angry because you understand that you are saying the truth and he should be the one that is deluded or has delusion, and now he's telling you that you have delusion. For example, I'm a doctor. If my patient tell me that you are crazy, I will become more angry than ever because he is telling me that I'm crazy, which I'm not. And once I get angry, he can control me. And this is the same trick that Piers Morgan do again and again and again with different cases that he has.
To say the obvious, which is that was an act of terrorism because you're concerned about upsetting people in Palestine. Is that the case?
Let me go back to my first point when I said you're peddling asininities. The reason I said that is because to look at a situation, no matter how heinous, and to ignore all of the context and pretend that you do not understand why said situation happened
Nothing justifies terrorism on that scale. Nothing.
Is asinine.
No, it's not.
Because it's not about justification.
Let me tell you why.
Piers, it's not about justification.
Let me tell you.
It's about understanding the realities of the world.
Let me tell you the realities of the world. Hamas.
That's what I'm saying. It's about understanding the reality. And if you want to understand the reality as a journalist, you should let your guest that talk at least for 1 minute not interrupted.
Hamas came to power in 2005. Hamas's initial founding charter made it clear that they are for the eradication of Israel. And on October the 7th, they proved what that means.
I love to be interviewed by this guy. I will teach him a lesson.
To people in Israel and to Jewish people. And that is, I'm afraid, the purest personification of a terror group. I also think by doing what they did, as they have done since 2005, they weren't representing innocent Palestinian people in Gaza.
Who are suffering
they,
now.
They knew, yes, but Hamas knew when they did what they did that Israel would respond the way they did and that thousands of innocent Palestinians would get killed. They knew that, and they still did it. So my question for you is, why can't you, which is my position on this, is very straightforward. What Hamas did was an act of terror. An absolutely despicable act of terror, and should be called exactly what it is. And they are now demonstrably a terrorist group.
I agree with you, Pires. You're right. What Hamas did is act of terror, and that's fine. And nobody could deny that. But what about Israelis that are doing for more than 15 years? You wouldn't talk about that in the same tone. You wouldn't say that what is Israeli doing is absolutely act of terrorist. You cannot dare to talk about that. But yes, you're talking about Hamas. That's fine with you. You can judge them as a journalist, which you shouldn't. But if you're judging one party and saying that they are doing these bad stuff, you should also mention the bad stuff that the other stuff, that the other party do. And you should condemn them with the same tone that you're condemning them. And that's very important as a journalist. You should not judge. But if you're judging, you should judge both of them the same.
That is why they were rightly prescribed that by the UK and America and other countries. And to try and pretend they're not makes you sound...
Yeah, and it's described by UK and blah, blah, blah. But how about UN? How about many other countries like Turkey, like Canada, like Arabs, that are saying that what Israel is doing is inhuman. It's not humanity. What Israel is doing is a war crime.
Like Jeremy Corbyn. I can't think of a worse insult to throw at you, right? So
I don't think me and Corbyn agree on that.
But I also think there are legitimate questions to come about the way Israel's responded. We can come to that. But I just want to ask you one more time. Is what Hamas did on October the 7th an act of terrorism?
I think, Piers, it is peddling asininities for you to pretend that enslaving people...
You sound like Jeremy Corbyn.
No, let me answer the question.
15 times he refused to answer the question.
Let me answer the question.
You're now up
I'm
to
not
about...
refusing.
You're now about 3 or 4.
If you look...
Are they a terror group or not?
They're one team's freedom fighter, and they're deemed a terrorist
What do
group.
you think?
I think that if you lock people in an open-air prison and steal their land, they're going to retaliate.
So they're not a terror group?
I think they're going to retaliate.
They're not a terror group?
One team's terrorist is another
Okay, we're
team's
now up
freedom
to about
fighter.
8. Are they a terror group?
And also, another thing I want to make clear to you, Piers.
Only Jeremy Corbyn has done this.
Done what?
Refused to answer the question.
I think that what they are doing is seemingly deemed an act of terror by the people that the terror...
Don't use weaselly words.
They're not weaselly. Of course the Israelis think they're a terror group, and of course the Palestinians think they're freedom fighters. It's stupid that you're asking the question.
Most of the civilized world thinks they're a terror group who committed an act of terrorism. It's not difficult. What they did was an act of terrorism.
And I think that if Israel continues to conduct acts of terrorism on the Palestinian people, they're going to do nothing but strengthen the reaction.
Well, that's a different conversation I'm about to have with you about Israel's response. But before I get there, one more time, is Hamas a terror group who committed an act of terrorism?
I think that when you lock people in an open-air prison, you're going to have to expect retaliation.
No,
because I have to... There's people who are... First things I want to say, Piers.
If you don't mind me saying, I think it's spineless.
Sure.
I do.
That's fine.
You sound like Jeremy Corbyn.
Well, that is an insult.
Did you see my interview with him?
No.
Right. 15 times last week, I asked him the same question. 15 times he prevaricated and wouldn't answer. Eventually, when someone does that enough times, you know what they really think.
Okay.
You don't think they're a terror group.
Well, let me answer.
You don't think they're a terror group.
No, what I think is this. On certain
Because I'd be really curious what you think an act of terror is if it's not massacring 1,500 innocent people, including Holocaust survivors, kidnapping babies, decapitating people, cutting their limbs off, raping women.
Yeah, talk about missing limbs. We're going to talk about that when we talk about what Israel has done.
But when we get there, it'll be in the context of you not admitting that was an act of terror.
Well, let me answer the question for the final time. I am a realist. And as a realist, sometimes you do not come to the conclusion of labeling good guys and bad guys. The world is not black and white.
Hamas are bad guys.
No, the world is not black and white. The world is actually very gray. Anybody who sits and thinks there's clearly a good guy,
there's nothing gray about what Hamas did,
and clearly a bad guy does not understand how the world works. And as a realist, what you do is you look at scenarios and you understand why they happen, how unfortunate they are, how unfortunate the loss of human life is, how civilians die on both sides, how innocents are dying in a chess game played by the elites on both sides. Both sides, you have innocent people who didn't even vote for the person making the decisions, who are ensuring their death, signing their death warrants. It's unfortunate on both sides. But listen, sir, you would not advocate Russia doing any of the things to Ukraine that Israel is doing to Palestine. You would not sit here.
Russia has been doing exactly that.
Russia has not done a fraction of the things to Ukraine that Israel has done to Palestine.
Russia illegally invaded a sovereign democratic country and has committed a barbaric rampage, trying to seize as much of Ukraine as it can, bombing maternity hospitals, killing innocent women and children. Right? Don't even try and have some kind of
this is genuine
equivocation of this.
I will. A Hamas rocket, a tiny Hamas rocket that can make a pothole in the road, and then they get hit back with cruise missiles. Let me ask you a question. Ukraine sent a drone and it hit the Kremlin. A drone attack. It did nothing. It damaged some shingles. If Russia decided to then respond with a missile attack on a hospital and annihilate 800 people,
it has been.
Do you think that would be allowed?
That's exactly what it has been.
Would you advocate for that?
Have you seen?
Would you support that?
Have you seen the state of Mariupol, which they leveled to the ground?
The Ukrainians did level it. You're correct.
No, the Russians.
2014.
The Russians leveled Mariupol.
And my question to you is, would you advocate those reactions? Let me ask you another question, Piers. This is a genuine question. Let me ask you a question, because I want to understand your point of view.
It's actually my interview of you.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. If you ask Piers Morgan a question which is staffed, he will tell you it's my interview. I'm going to ask you and you should answer. And actually Bassem did this. He told Piers Morgan that if you want me to come here and condemn Hamas, and I will do that and I will go to whom. But if you don't want that, let me finish my point. And that was the time that Piers understood that he's with the wrong guy and he should be silent. And then he was silent until Bassem finished his point. So I find Andrew Tate weak here because he's not telling Piers Morgan that if it's your job to ask me a question, then only ask you a question and then shut up. Let me finish my answer. You're asking me the question, then you interrupt every 5 seconds, and when I'm trying to make my point, you attack me again and again, and you mention your own point. And this is not ethics of journalism. This is not professionalism.
But you tried to understand mine. I just want to understand your point of view. If I believed, or if Israel believed, that one of the people in your house was a terrorist and decided to destroy your entire house and kill your entire family, would you sit and say, well, maybe there was a terrorist inside, I accept that? Or would you be enraged? Genuine question.
I don't think you can take an individual person's response.
Well, it's a bunch of individuals.
Okay, wait, Piers. Once he's asking you a question where you should say that it's good or bad, you're not going to say it. You are trying to make your own point without saying that act is good or bad. But once you're asking Andrew that tell me Hamas are terrorist group or not, then you don't let him to make his own point. Now you're not answering the question. You're saying your own point. You're allowed to mention your own point. But Andrew Tate is not allowed. That's double standard, bro.
They're not cattle, Piers.
Let's come to that.
They're people.
Right, and so were the people in Israel on October the 7th.
And that's why it's so heinous, which is my exact point.
But not heinous enough to reach your bar of terrorism.
Let's move on.
What do you mean by that?
By not saying it, you've made your position clear. Just as Jeremy Corbyn did. And to pretend you're any different...
Why he's comparing Andrew Tate to that other guy?
Is there a legitimate question?
I mean, to trigger him? To say I'm not that person? I don't know.
And they're embedded amongst the civilian population, predominantly in northern Gaza. We know from intelligence over the last 20 years, which you won't believe because the Matrix has made it all up.
Correct.
We know from intelligence that
historically...
When you say you don't believe it because of Matrix, and Andrew is accepting, yeah, correct. I stand by my word.
Now, Israel has killed nearly 12,000 people in its response, right? There are many people around the world demanding a ceasefire who think that is a ridiculously disproportionate response to what happened. Well, it was genocide. They would want to kill everyone in Palestine. They don't.
They just want to drive them all out.
Whereas Hamas do want to kill every Jew. That is actually what genocide is.
You know what's actually interesting? Because you've spoken about this subject with people who actually understand the conflict better than I do. Mohammed Hijab understands it better. Low-key understands it better. I'm talking from a very general humanistic perspective.
And I'm too, because I don't know what's going on. I'm just listening to this interview and I'm judging this both side by this interview. So I don't know what's going on. It's a conflict and I'm not a politician. I'm a doctor. I'm just trying to understand how they talk. And I look to Piers Morgan. His questions are not promoting peace. It's a triggered questions.
You know what,
You know what happens?
You know what, Andrew?
Wait till it's your son.
You know what, I agree. And you know what, Andrew? War is horrific. It's horrific.
Yes, it is. Yes, Paris. Good point.
Israel
go after Hamas, and if it is, and you believe as I do, Hamas has to be got rid of, how do you
do that? If you don't
That's a good question. Actually, for first time, that's a professional question. This is a question that give you a solution. This is a question that give a break to both sides, to Palestinian and to Israelis. And let me clear one thing. Both sides want Hamas to be gone. I never saw a Palestinian that support Hamas. And I never saw an Israeli that support Hamas. Now, why Hamas is still there? This should be the question that need to be asked. I mean, if I was Piers Morgan, I would say, look, guy, Hamas was there, they attacked Israeli. And that was terrific. That was act of terror. Israeli don't want Hamas. And if Palestinians want peace, they should be rid of Hamas. Now, what we should do to remove Hamas? Now, this is the question. So when you ask this question, they will tell you that why Hamas built up. Do you think after every stuff, after this terrific strikes that happens in Gaza, won't make more Hamas? It will. So this is the first question I find positive.
You won't agree with anything they're doing because you can't even categorize them as a terror group.
Yeah, the same. You're not agree with Israelis that are doing bad things.
You didn't answer my earlier.
So Andrew is not agreeing with you the same. But I think Andrew should agree with you. So to keep this conversation beneficial, at least.
Family that you have raised, you would not accept that.
Of course I wouldn't.
Okay, absolutely. So let me answer this as a professional. What's funny is I'm a humanist. Like I said,
a professional what, by the way?
the professional.
What
Please
does
let
that
me
mean?
answer.
What are you? What are you speaking? You say you're speaking to professional,
and I'm talking about this from a humanistic perspective, right? And like I said, you've talked to people more knowledgeable than me on the details of the subject. Right. Listen to me very carefully. I thought we lived in a democratic society. You just said 35,000 Hamas terrorists, and this is the thing that's most upsetting to me. This is what genuinely upsets me. Israel intelligence will say a guy's a Hamas terrorist. Has that guy gone to a court of law? Has there been a democratic process? Has he been proven to be a terrorist?
These are the questions that should be asked.
Intelligence that couldn't see an invasion coming from hundreds of miles away. So this intelligence is
actually no.
It's not great.
No.
So they've decided this person might be in intelligence without court case, without any kind of democratic process, and because of that, they've decided to annihilate civilians along with him, and it's all just collateral damage, and nobody should care. That is not a humanistic perspective, and that is disgusting. And any person in the West who is advocating for that is a hypocrite. Because if it was turned on them, if the American government said, we think the person...
Now, he tried to interrupt Andrew, but this time it won't work.
Might have committed a crime. We didn't take them to court. We think they might have, so we killed your whole family. Get over it.
So the last time...
is a clown and a hypocrite.
So the last time...
What do you expect full-grown men to do?
I'm about to respond.
What do you expect full-grown men to do when you kill all of their families and leave them locked in an open-air prison?
Let me respond. The last time that Jewish people faced an existential threat was in World War II. And the Nazis, who wanted to take over the world and kill every Jewish person.
That's not what he asked.
Defeated by Winston Churchill leading the Allies.
That's not what he asked. Answer the question.
The process of defeating the Nazis killed a lot of German innocent civilians in the process.
So what?
Do you think that was justified?
So what? He asked a question that you should respond to him, and you don't respond to him, and you're asking him back. Andrew asked you a simple question. For once, answer his question, dude. For once.
Was it what? No, I asked.
And if Andrew is smart enough, he will say you didn't answer my question, and he will ask him again.
No, I don't need to think about your question.
No.
I believe that.
Yeah, he rejected and he refused to answer him back, but he forgot his own question that he asked Piers Morgan, and Piers Morgan escaped that question by asking him back. Just he threw a story in first, and he asked again his own question.
On a populist because you don't want them on land you say is yours, then you are terrorists.
It's exactly what Hamas did on October the 7th.
Exactly what Israel had did.
Yeah, that's true.
You literally just describe what Hamas do.
You just describe what Israel did.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying, if you want Andrew Tate to describe what Hamas did, you have to describe what Israelis did. But you're saying, no, forget Israelis when it comes to bad action. Just talk about Hamas. And that's not professional.
And this is the exact point.
So Israel...
No, but to see your...
Hang on, so you think Israel are terrorists?
I think that what they're doing now is disproportionate and genocidal.
Is it terrorism?
It's genocidal, so I guess that makes it terrorism. It's
right,
genocidal.
so they're terrorists for responding to an act
I
of
think
terror.
Andrew is illogical here. If you are saying that Israel is doing genocidal stuff, then for sure they are terrorists. And if you are not sure to say that they are terrorists, then you cannot say that they are genocidal. So you should, when you're making a comment on an issue and you believe that they are, then you should stand by that. Like, I don't know what's going on in Gaza. I don't know what's going on with Israelis. I don't know what's going on with Hamas. I don't know. I watch different videos and I say my point of views. Like, I saw the videos of Israeli that I feel bad for them. And I saw the videos of Palestinian that almost make me into a PTSD. So I don't know what's going on there. But if somebody asks me that what's your point, what you are trying to say about Israel and Palestine, I will say that I have three things to say. First, it has nothing with religion. Muslim love Jews, Jew love Muslims. Israeli and Palestinian can be together and they can stay as brothers. Second, it's about evil versus good. There are good people in Israelis that don't want war. There are good people in Palestine that don't want fight with Israelis. So the bad people are the government of Israel, I think, and the Hamas as a terrorist group. And third, if you want to make this thing stop, you should understand, a Jew should understand that I don't want to see my Muslim brother to be killed. And a Muslim should understand that what happened in Israel, there was an act of terror and we don't want this act again and again to be happen. And that's when you can build peace.
People who committed the act of terror are not terrorists.
The way in which they're responding...
You see the problem in that argument?
No.
Really?
Piers, what they are doing now...
Slaughtering 1,500 people in the way they did it is not an act of terror by terrorists, but a response from the people who are on the receiving end, rather like the response of the Allies in World War II.
No, that's a trigger question. I don't think this was a response. If Israeli can respond, then Palestinian can respond again. Because there is a war more than 15 years, and you cannot just bring this war to October the 7th. That's just unprofessional from Paris Morgan to say that this war started in October the 7th. No, it was not. You should read the story. You should read the history.
Don't you dare say that about me.
Well, okay, then don't put them together in numbers.
No, I've spoken for many years about the plight of the Palestinian people.
No, you didn't.
Israel has any control over their ability to function with water, with fuel, with other energy, and so on, and food, and so on.
That's interesting.
It
so
is wrong.
If you were in Gaza as a Gazan male of masculine fighting age, and you believed the things you currently believe, what would you do about it?
That's a true question.
Justifies the terrorism.
What he mean by that, bro?
I understand why people...
I mean, Andrew is telling him that if you were a masculine man living in open air prison with all the problem that he mentioned, with water, with electricity, with limitation, what you will do? He's saying that Israel has the right to respond to terrorists. But when Palestinians are in open air prison with problem that they have with water and with electricity and the limitation and the occupation, they should stay silent. They should not do anything, because if they do, they are terrorists. Because if they do, they are Hamas. If they do, they are bad people. And that's unprofessional, bro. If you want a peace, you should say that yes, these stuff make me to become a terrorist. So we should stop making terrorists in Gaza. By what? By making peace between Jews and Muslims, between Israelis and Palestinians. For God's sake, they are human. Doesn't matter Palestinian, doesn't matter Israelis. Childs are child. They should not be killing. Amen.
Why they want freedom. I understand why they want the same rights as...
If you understand, then why you're saying that what Hamas did is a terrorist attack, but Israel is okay and they never occupied. And if you occupy in country, you will make a freedom fighter. But I don't find Hamas a freedom fighter. I believe that they are terrorists, but who make these terrorists? Government of Israel.
You're pretending they shouldn't. You're saying that they should never explode. Nothing bad should ever happen.
Saying nothing justifies terrorism.
We should just be allowed to subjugate them for endless years.
Yeah, nothing justifies terrorism, and Israel is doing that for years and years. That's the point that Andrew Tate is making.
You're not a realist because actually you...
Now, actually, he is realistic, and you're delusion. I find you delusion.
You think actually they're freedom
Because you come with a clear agenda and you want him to say that Hamas is terrorist. And he's not intelligent enough to accept that they are terrorists. So, case closed. Let's talk about Israeli.
I think it's a shame.
Natural consequence.
I think it's a shame.
A shame, that's it.
I think it's a shame that we're living in the world now where people are reduced to basically suicide, to try and fight for freedom for their families, if they have one left. Because they all committed suicide, those men who did that.
Well, the Hamas...
they didn't have a chance of survival. I think when you
Well, that's because they believe that they're martyring themselves and going to a better
when
life.
you oppress people to the point where their family's dead and they have nothing to live for.
So
I think that's a shame.
So you
Yeah, that's a shame. And you should accept.
Absolutely not.
You support an Islamist ideology.
Absolutely not.
Right.
What I support...
So why do you support
Hamas?
I support...
Let me tell you something about Islamic ideology. In Islam, we believe peace. I think we're not allowed to kill Jews. We are not allowed to kill Christians. No Muslim is a Muslim if he kill a person, an innocent person. If you kill innocent person, it means like you kill all humanity. So
For what they did.
I trust that. That's not going in the right way.
Very quick to condemn Israel's response, but you won't condemn the terror attack.
I think we should condemn both. If Andrew is quick to condemn Israel's activity, then he should be quick to condemn what Hamas did. We should condemn both both sides of criminals.
Supported
by Iran? They didn't like the fact that Israel was normalizing relations with a bunch of Arab countries, from the UAE to Bahrain to Morocco, and then coming down the line was going to be Saudi Arabia. That was a threat to the Iran view of what should be happening in that region. Iran are the ones who support and fund and arm
Hamas, and they...
And where was Mossad when these everythings are planned? I mean, Iran is coming, supporting Israelis, giving them loads of rockets to attack Israelis. Where is Mossad?
They sentenced in that moment not just 1,500 people in Israel to death in the most appalling manner possible, but they also sentenced to death thousands and thousands of innocent Palestinians, including many...
Now this is professionalism, Paris. Now I give you credit. That for the first time, when you're talking about Israelis' damage, you're also talking about Palestinians' damage. For the first time, you're being professional. If you are a journalist, when you're saying that Hamas is a terrorist group, then you should also say that I believe that Israeli government also did some crimes which are war crimes. And if you are saying that we believe that in Israel we saw a terrorist attack, which lots of people lost their life, we understand that Palestinians gone on the same track, on the same way. So that's professionalism. You should be equalizing the stuff. You should not judge everything by one side. That's the first time I give this guy credit.
Children, and Hamas knew that was...
Actually, the third time.
My question is, how can anyone think that Hamas is a force for good for the Palestinian people?
Why somebody should say that Hamas is a force to good? Terrorists should be terrorists.
Let me ask the question. Do you think if we gave the Palestinian people basic human rights, that Hamas would find it more difficult to recruit new soldiers?
That's logical.
I think
Probably if we treat them like humans, this won't happen. So we agree and let's move on.
That's end of the conversation. If we give full rights to Palestinians in Gaza, why would they support Hamas, a terrorist group? I agree with you. Why Hamas is still there? Why we cannot remove them? There is something that triggers people to join them. And what is that stuff that trigger people to join Hamas? Why you're not talking about that, Piers?
Of Israel's response that you radicalize a whole new generation of Palestinians. I think that's a real danger.
So
and
perhaps,
by the way, I've said that. We can agree on that.
So perhaps it was Israel's actions before October 7th that radicalized the soldiers who invaded. So you agree with me. So let's move on.
No, I don't.
Actually, he is agreeing that. But when Andrew said that you're agreeing, no, I don't. But you mentioned that you are.
A good relationship with. Sure. One is Jordan Peterson, and the other one Ben Shapiro.
I love Jordan Peterson. I don't know about Ben Shapiro too much. I follow Jordan Peterson because he's also, I think he's a psychologist. I'm a psychiatrist, so I follow him. I respect him as a psychologist.
Places, he's far more in his mind, whereas I live in more in a physical realm than he does.
Oh.
But I have nothing against Jordan. I don't dislike him. I do find it, I must be honest, a bit disingenuous and hypocritical that he speaks about strength and then ends up addicted to an antidepressant.
Oh no, that's insult. That's insult. I believe that's insult.
However, I have nothing against the guy. He says very intelligent things, and I'd be interested to argue with him or discuss or debate with him, but I think we'd actually agree on most points, to be honest.
I think that will be great that we see Jordan Peterson with Andrew Tate debating our different topics. I will love that.
People around me were selling drugs, so at least I didn't do that. So I'm not going to allow somebody who's a professor in a university who's had an easy life come along and tell me how people from the streets should survive. You have to find a way out. Just get richer by trying. But I just think that he's been.
He respects him, he loves him, but at the same time he's insulting. He's calling him a drug addicted. He's calling Jordan Peterson a person that what he says he don't follow. He's drug addicted. He is weak, but he respects him. That's kind of funny.
Human beings, I think it's a disgusting thing to do because hell is that 15-year-old girl with no legs and her parents.
Yeah.
Hell is you see her crying her eyes out, begging to die.
Yeah.
That is hell, and I don't think you should genuinely wish hell on anyone, Israel or Palestinian, either anyone. I don't want anybody to die.
That's why we should talk about humanity. Trust me that if you show the video of that girl to any Israeli or any Jew in the world, they will cry for that and they will not support that action. And what happened in Israel while Hamas attack, if you show that video to any Palestinian, they will cry for that and they will not support what happened with them. Me as a person that saw lots of blast, that saw lots of killing in my own country, I will cry for both. I will cry for Israelis, I will cry for Palestinians, I will cry for Jew, I will cry for Muslims. I will cry for children because they don't know about religion, they don't know about politics. So the point is that we should tell the people truth. We should tell Israelis that there are people dying in Palestine, and we should tell to people of Palestine that there are people, innocent people dying in Israel. So you should understand and you should stop killing these innocent people. And I don't find any Jew in Israel who is not in government that he killed any Palestinian, and I don't find any Palestinian who is innocent and not in Hamas love to kill any Israeli. So we should discuss these topics to promote peace between Palestinian and Israelis. I don't know what is this war about. Is it about land? Is it about politics? Is it about Antichrist? Now, whatever it is, we should find a solution to stop killing innocent people.
Wishing hell on an entire population.
He did express regret for the way he phrased it.
And he should,
and
because it's disgusting. I've not wished hell on the Israelis. I've not wished hell on the Israelis.
Nobody does. I think no Muslim does. You won't find any Muslim to say hell on Israeli. You won't find. But yes, you will find Jordan Peterson saying show them hell. And that's not something to promote peace. We want peace.
Girls going through. Not a single one.
He said about you, Jordan Peterson, I'm not particularly happy to be grouped with Andrew Tate. I think there are some elements about what he does that are quite reprehensible.
I'm sure he has. I don't know everything he says, and he may disagree with some of my point of view. As I said, I have nothing against him. I don't think anything he says is particularly wrong. I think that he's hypocritical because of the antidepressant problem, and I think that he wishes hell on
So he's a drug addicted. I never knew that Jordan Peterson is drug addicted. He's a professor and he shouldn't use drug. I believe this.
But overall, when he speaks at length, a lot of the things he says are pretty well thought through and pretty constructive. I have nothing against the guy.
Let me turn to Ben Shapiro. He said, let me assure you, as someone who's not pimped women and bragged about it, that morality requires that those who rape women and kidnap women must be eradicated, not negotiated with. He says, on my show, I won't be lectured on morality and toughness like Andrew Tate.
I think Ben Shapiro is the guy that they find them with very high IQ. I was his fan once he was talking in different area about gender equality stuff, and he was kind of religious, a religious Jew. I find him that time a very respectful person, and also a person that is very smart. I saw one of his interview with a transgender, and the transgender warned him to stop talking, or he might be go to home in an ambulance. And then I saw his replay on that interview, and he said that I find that so funny because nobody is going to home in ambulance. So I am a fan. I'm following this guy. He's smart enough, but let's see what he mentioned about Palestine on these videos. So I think I may follow Twitter or something, because if I kill one innocent person, it means I killed the whole humanity, and I'm scared to death to do this crime, so I wouldn't do that. So if Ben Shapiro, as a person that I love him with a very high IQ, is saying fuck them all and kill as many as son of the bitches as possible, it is not what Bible teaches. It's not what religion teaches. It's not the teaching of Jews, and it's not the teaching of Muslim. So we should understand that we are fighting against evil, and every book and every religion is telling you to do good. And if there are bad parties, kill them, but not their child, not their families, not their women, not the elders. And I accept that.
Listening to this, he would say that what he's screaming for is for Jewish people in Israel to defend themselves.
All
he's a Jewish
Ben
man.
does is call for war. And I agree. Defending yourself.
That's not all he does.
That's all he does. And calling for war and
okay, if Pires believed that Ben Shapiro did that, at least he should quote some good stuff that Ben Shapiro said. Because personally, I believe the guy, he's a good guy, so I don't know.
Totally align on many of the key issues. I don't have a beef with Ben, and I don't watch his show. I have no idea what he talks about a lot of the time.
Actually, I don't watch his show either. I watch lots of his debate. It was interesting, but from the time he started his show, I find that show boring, because he is good in debates, not in reaction videos. It's my first time doing reaction videos, so Ben.
I say we should talk about peace. He calls for the death of civilians, and somehow we're asking why my point of view is seen as abstract. It's insane. Why can't we all just sit down and say the fighting must end?
Yeah.
Why can't we do that?
That's what I'm saying. The fight must end, and if you want to end this fight, you should talk on similarity of peace, not on question that trigger a party to say something, and you should take these quotes and tell to other person that he said these stuff about you. I think Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro may say some good stuff, that Piers Morgan could quote that to Andrew Tate, but he didn't quote it.
I don't need to tell you about the parts of my history that I'm not prepared to share, Piers.
Oh.
I said it to Ben. I said people who've done their own fighting and seen their own violence and have seen people bleed out in the street from a stab wound are not going to be so smart and so quick to sit behind a desk and call for the death of innocent people. It's disgusting what's happening. I don't want anyone to die on either side. And when I come along as a peacemaker and say, this is insane, because he's a warmonger, because he has chosen blinkers and sees one side of the argument and refuses to accept the humanity of Palestinians, he says I'm a bad person for calling for peace.
Well, you know why? Because you probably listen to this interview and say, this guy can't even describe Hamas as terrorists.
Come on, Piers. From the start of this interview till now, you're asking only one question. is Hamas a terrorist group? And you're asking again and again, and Andrew Tate is answering you, and every time you're telling him that no, I won't stop until you won't tell me that they are terrorist group.
Stop dying. However, I understand what is going to happen when you create a pressure cooker. That is my answer.
And that's a good answer. If you don't like it, you don't care.
Because I'm a humanist, I understand you cannot lock people in an open-air prison for provoking terrorism.
So out of interest, what would you have done if you'd been Israel after October the 7th?
That's a good question. Paris, that's a good question. That's a great question. I agree with that question. That's a question that promotes peace.
What would you do to defend the people of Israel?
Good question. They have the
Both are good questions, yeah.
largely affected. I think that their border security is usually affected. It's very interesting that it wasn't on.
So you would say they would do nothing other than tighten up security?
I think if I was truthfully, I'll answer the question. If I was truthfully in charge of Israel, I would have found out how our border was penetrated. I would have made sure that was impossible to do. I would have had large conversations and discourse during that period, which would probably take weeks to ensure that my border was impenetrable because we were at no genuine threat of a repeat attack. And then I would make it clear that there will be some repercussion unless there would be some repercussion unless we can come to peace terms. I don't think the
Hamas doesn't want peace.
Of course not. But I'm saying
that's a stated position.
Of course.
So there's not mean
okay, you're asking what I'd do. I would have found out first things first. I'm a man. So first things first, you fix the problem. Okay.
Yeah, I have a question. If Hamas don't want peace, I mean, why they're asking for ceasefire? How do you judge they don't want peace? Are you talking with them? Do you have a relation with Hamas?
There might be some military intervention, but there certainly wouldn't be bombing hospitals, cruise missiling refugee camps. There wouldn't be any of the things that's going on now. Absolutely.
Even we have son of the founder of Hamas that are talking about peace.
I would have made sure as a man I didn't make a rushed and emotional response.
So you'd be more like Neville Chamberlain, trying to do peace with the Nazis and Winston Churchill trying to kill them?
Well,
yeah,
that's an interesting question.
You're an appeaser, not a warrior.
Well, I still think I'm a warrior.
What do he mean by warrior? Do you want war, Piers Morgan? Do you want more children to die?
have to be very understanding of
Are you trying to promote people to be a warrior rather than a peace builder?
responsible about what I say to the young men of the world. I would understand as Israel, I must be responsible with my massive military might to make sure I don't kill civilians. And I would sit and try and make a measured response, and I'd be a professional, and I would consider them human beings, and I would secure my border and try and come up with a plan better than, oh no, I'm mad, I'm emotional now, let's go kill everyone.
That's what Paris want? I don't know.
We've spent a long time talking. You're going to find out at some stage today.
Let me say, this guy is really intelligent, Paris, although I'm not agree with him in lots of points that I saw his interview today. But yeah, he know how to manipulate people, he know how to interrupt, he know how to ask tough questions, he know how to challenge people, and he know how to say what he say, and he know how to make people talk about things that they don't want to talk. Like, I'm not a politician, but yet when I saw this interview, I maybe say lots of stuff that I don't mean it just because of this interview. So he's smart.
Absolutely. I'm a man and I take absolute self-accountability. You have to, as a man, your superpower is looking in the mirror and understanding everything that happens to you, both good and bad, to a degree is your fault. It could have all been influenced. I could have avoided all of this. I could have avoided the Matrix attacks. Oh, sorry, I could have avoided jail.
He's good with the Matrix attack jokes. He's always good. And Rio was always good, although I don't accept lots of his point, but when he talks good.
Brand new that I did not expect to become the most viral videos in the world, because I didn't expect to become the most famous and known person on the planet. That's all true. I'm not saying I have no part to play in any of this. However, I can still say that I'm completely innocent. I can still say that it's only my fame and notoriety.
Well, I don't know about that.
To try and even put me in jail in the first place. I can still say that there's some unfair policing in the world depending on your political views. I can still say all of those things while accepting
who he is.
The situation I'm in.
I mean, I know his name, but I don't know lots of him. Okay, actually, Andrew invite Paris Morgan to Islam, and that's cute. But at the same time, peace and humanity is very important, and we wish that Palestine and Israel have peace, and we want them to be safe. We don't want any children, any female, any older or any young generation to be killed. It doesn't matter where. We love humans and we love humanity.